Hi. Today the main topic is the service worker. Um, the what is service worker? The service worker is just the some kind of broader feature in web development. But before trying to talk about service worker, if you're for instance an engineer or whatever, if you're trying to learn about service worker, you have to understand of the browser, our web application is handled by browser, and browser is just the desktop application or mobile application. It's just the app, and you should learn about what is app. What is app? In the engineer term, the app is like considered with the programs, and program considered with the bunch of instructions. And when the program start, it became the process. So we call the process of the running instance of the program. So back again, so app when you're trying to run a program or app become a process. So what is a browser? Like example, I'm just gonna give the Chrome of it. Chrome is known as famous um, desktop app, the browser desktop app. The Chrome, the Chrome is the app. The app has the process, right? We just decode the process. The process of what I just said is just the running instance of the program. It's not a really hard thing. The process can be split into the two things. So which is the resource grouping and next is execute. The resource grouping is that the process is gonna get the resources from the operating system, because the operating system is the one who doing the resource management or those kind of thing. And when the process is being run, the operating system gonna sense the some kind of specific the resources that process uh, has to get. So the resource grouping is under the big feature of the process. The other thing is that execution. The execution is handled by thread. So which also means that a process has a list of thread. So now back again, our Chrome, the desktop is also known as a desktop app. It has a process. It becomes a process, and the broader the Chrome is, the multi-process application, which has there are multiple processes of it, rather than just a single process. It has multiple process. So let's say this kind of like frame of the Chrome application, and let's say just this is a Chrome, and there's a famous process. Let's say this is a process, um, process A, and this is also process B. Process B. And there's a lot of things. So Chrome has process A, process B. If you're trying to learn about some kind of like what process is in the Chrome, you basically need to, if you're a front engineer, basically you need some two things. Either there's a multiple process, there are a utility process, GPU process, and plugin process. But I think the most fundamental and important part is that browser process and the render process. I know this is kind of really hard thing. This sounds really hard. This browser process is kind of big. It's kind of abstract. So I'm just gonna try to put the real example of it. So inside the browser process, it has a thread, because I said the thread is handling execution, and the process can have lot of threads, because it's gonna be have a lot of thread if it's needed. So example, in the browser process, the UI thread is in the browser process, and also network thread is also here. And also there's a lot of thread, but let's say the UI thread and network thread. Um, let's say you just open the browser. You open the browser and you want to type some fancy or fancy. Or else it just say you want to go YouTube and I want to watch some kind of the video. Um, and also you have to create a tab, right? So example, let's split this one. Example, this is the tab. And there's another tab, there's more tab, plus. And you type some kind, there's a refresh button here. And there's a address bar. When trying to search something, you will be able to click this part, click the address bar, and you will type some kind of the search query or the URL. Example, you want to go to YouTube and you want to type this youtube.com. While doing this stuff, the browser has to figure out, are you going to the URL of the YouTube or do you want to just search the YouTube related the search query? So that's just a search query. Or are you wanna search the content related to the YouTube? And it parses thing and it also gives you the recommendation of it. And those kind of thing is the interactive with the UI, right? And that is the part the UI thread handle those kind of thing. And now after that, you just hit enter of youtube.com because you want to go to YouTube URL, right? And when it's doing it, it has to fetch the real the address of the youtube.com. Why? Because the youtube.com is held by YouTube server. I mean, like, that's kind of obvious. All of the URL cannot be in your just in one desktop application. There are like millions of the URL, millions of the IP address of it. You cannot put into or data into this desktop application. And there's another server there. Example, YouTube.com has their own server, and Google.com has their own server. Like also Facebook.com has their own server. When you hit YouTube.com, you have to get the HTML, CSS, JavaScript. If you're a front engineer, you're kind of familiar with this. And the HTML, CSS, JavaScript is handled by or the static server responds with the HTML, right? CSS, JavaScript. And before doing it, I'm just gonna erase this part. Before doing it, you need to find the IP address of it. The first thing, why you should understand the IP address is the domain, the URL is our human friendly term of it. The real value of this is IP address. It's just the address of this URL. So we have to get this value of it, but if there's no value, we cannot get it. I mean, it's kind of obvious because there's your house. Let's say YouTube house. You want to go to YouTube house. Let's say YouTube is your friend. You know the kind of the name of that house, name of the address. Example, I don't know how to give an example. You don't know the name of it, but you wanna really find the real IP address of it to find it to go to this kind of specific location. You have to understand. You have to find the real IP address of it. So that's why we need to get the IP address, and then it's handled by. There's kind of method to do it. That's called DNS lookup. So DNS lookup is basically, just there's a domain name system provider. There's a root provider, and there's it goes bottom. Wait, hold on. DNS lookup is just basically getting your IP address. Let me just try to simplify it for you more. It has to be this DNS. DNS are also also seems like the phone book in 1980 or 1970. In the phone book, there's a key of name or value of the phone number of it. So in this word right now is URL, is name of it, the IP address, the phone number. So that's handled by DNS lookup. The DNS lookup, and after handled by DNS lookup, you were able to get the IP address of it, and now you're able to get HTML6 and JavaScript. And those kind of heavy, the network related stuff is handled by the network thread. And after the network thread receives the HTML6 and JavaScript, it sends to the render process via IPC, inter-process communication. So IPC is just how to send the message even though they are separated, because the process is separated for the security issue, but also kind of like resource, the view of resources. For example, if you just go to YouTube, but you wanna go to the Facebook.com, this is sandbox via sandbox. So this process and this process is different. The tab is also known as process. And if YouTube.com can give some kind of good effect or bad effect to your other tab, it's gonna be really messed up. So that's why we separate the process on it. So we communicate via IPC, inter-process communication, and we send HTML6 to JavaScript, and let's say and render process that, hey, I already got the HTML6 to JavaScript, and you are the one who renders it. So that is by render process is the one who doing the render. And now, why we need service worker? Why? Because the service worker is some kind of broad specific cache. It can do stuff like casting. Let me give you an example. When you're trying to call network, example some kind of big heavy stuff. Image, let's say your image is so big that it costs 5 megabytes. And it has to be cached, right? It has to cache with the HTTP cache control. But before even doing that, you can use service worker. Network actually checks, tell the service worker, do you have this kind of value to the service worker? And if it is yes, network thread doesn't call the network, because we already have key value of it. So service worker is just like some kind of the not the thread. It is a thread. It's kind of also a thread, but it's the one who helps the cache and other utilities for the development. So networks, because of service worker, we're not we don't have to call some kind of big networks because we already cache here. So service worker is really important part to enhance the performance. So that's why Progress Web application use service worker for that. And the reason why, so it doesn't add for the new network. So the service worker makes your application works even though it is offline. So if you want to make your application works as offline, you can just use the service worker as a cache or those kind of things. So this is have a nice day. See you next time. Bye bye.